Hello, all good? So first, we'll start off with some housekeeping rules. Kindly mute your microphone or switch them off. You can choose to switch on your camera or switch it off. That's fine. It's up to you to make the choice. If you have any questions, you can type and send the questions to me using the chat box below. And during the Q&A session, if you have any questions, kindly use the raise hand feature. Moving on. So welcome to this workshop. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jessica Mak. I'm born deaf, but my parents are hearing. I'm proficient in reading and writing, and the two languages that I know are English and Malay. And I also know the Malaysian Sign Language, Singaporean Sign Language, and also Japanese Sign Language. Previously, I've spent 1 year in Japan undergoing training under the Daskin Leadership Training Program. That program is basically about how to improve the disability environment and system in Japan. And I've worked with the deaf community very closely for more than 30 years. And I'm happy and pleased to have all of you join us today to learn more about the deaf culture. So in this workshop, what do you think you'll gain today? Firstly, you understand more about deaf culture. What are the important values? What are the community norms? And also to be able to appreciate the Malaysian Sign Language and its cultural role. So these are the three objectives that we have for today. Moving forward, allow me first to explain to you what deaf culture really is, as provide some insight into it. So it is a shared language, values, norms, history, and also community identity. Similarly, in Malaysia, we consist of a multicultural society. We have the Malays, Chinese, Indians, and all of them have their own community, language, and their norms. So what about the deaf community? We are unique because we are a linguistic minority, and we sign using Malaysian Sign Language. We don't think ourselves as handicapped, OKU, or disabled. We are more closely knit linguistic minority community. I know I'm deaf, and I'm proud of my identity. And this culture is passed down from generations to generations. Firstly, through the establishment of a deaf school in the year 1954 and until today. through interactions, sharings, through associations such as deaf associations, events, and interactions. This is how we reinforce our culture. Before that, many people have many misconceptions about the word deaf, bearing the capital D and a small d. Let's look at the table in the slides that I've put up. For deaf with a capital D is akin to the racial community of Malay and Chinese. You notice those words have capital M and C. It's just the same as well because it belongs to the community. It belongs to the identity. However, with a small d, it is more of a medical condition. They don't sign, maybe they speak, or they wear hearing devices such as your hearing aid and also your cochlear implant. However, they have yet to embrace the identity of a deaf person, and maybe they have not even embraced the deaf community. And for the term deaf and mute, this is not a good term to address us. We are deaf. Yes, we are deaf, but we have voice. We can produce voice using our vocal cords. However, it is not our preference to speak. Speech requires a lot of practice to be able to pronounce or enunciate words perfectly and properly. That is not something that we choose. We prefer to sign. Allow me to share a story about a retreat that I've attended. In that retreat, we have a mixture of hearing people and deaf people. All of us are sleeping in the room. There's one deaf person who was snoring really loud, really loud, and woke everyone up. However, the deaf person could sleep well, had a good night's sleep, because that person couldn't hear. But everyone else who can hear, they struggle to sleep because the noise from the snoring actually wake them up or disturb their beauty sleep. We can use our voice to shout, to yell. So if you notice, some deaf persons could speak, but that's not actually part of identity. Okay. Now let's talk about language as our cultural core. The Malaysian Sign Language is not just for communication. It reflects our thoughts, our emotions, our values, and our identity. Without language, there will be no culture. Without language, that person cannot express oneself. They cannot continue to live a normal life. So language, in essence, is the heartbeat of our culture. Language is really important to our deaf community. Many people misunderstand that a deaf person can lip read or can communicate only by writing. But in actual fact, that is what we term autism, which means that they do not accept that we communicate using sign language. So language is really important for all of us to express ourselves, to show our thoughts, our emotions, and also for accessibility. Between the hearing and the deaf, all of us are equals. All language are equal. So for the Malaysian Sign Language, it belongs to the deaf community. For the Malaysian Sign Language, it helps, it empowers deaf persons through education. So for deaf children to go to school, to learn using their natural language, well, it helps them to improve in their studies much better. So in essence, the Malaysian Sign Language is really important. Without voice, there can be no right. And now I would like to share with you about our shared values and social norms. There are 6 of them. Firstly, the Malaysian Sign Language is a visual method of communication. And we use this to pass down our information or tradition from generation to generation. And it helps to develop our community and our identity. Next. So for deaf cultural practices, there are a lot of them. Let me give you some examples from our everyday life. Name signs, for one, is uniquely, it belongs uniquely to the deaf community. We can't expecting to fingerspell the words over and over again, especially our names when it comes to name sign. So we have our sign names, and our sign names actually reflect our character, our expression. For example, I have a friend by the name of Phoebe. She always smiles, and therefore she has a sign name, P in an arch shape of a smiley shape. And I have another friend. I have friends as well who had a flower hair clip or a hairpin. So her sign names becomes as such. So the sign name actually reflects the identity of the person. For deaf clubs and social gatherings, it's really important for all of us, whenever we meet, eye contact for when we sign and communicate is really important. During office, during work, a deaf person may not have a deaf colleague. So it's really important and really pleasurable when they actually get to meet, really exciting when they get to meet one another, interact one another, and socialize. Well, about stories, theatrical performances, information sharing, expressions, these are really important. So the Malaysian Sign Language, we can employ them in all of these scenarios. I have my story as well, where we share jokes. It relates to our culture and our life as a deaf person. Allow me to share with you one funny story, something that happened to a deaf person. Well, this deaf person was driving in a car and busily chatting away using sign inside the car while driving. The car in the front stopped because the traffic light turned red. Sorry, the deaf driver's car stopped when the traffic light turned red, and then the hearing person at the back who was driving didn't manage to brake in time and banged the car in the front. So the deaf person exited the car and tell the hearing driver at the back that I cannot hear. The hearing driver was shocked, thought that he had caused the driver to become deaf or couldn't hear. Upon impact, the person had to admit that I'm deaf, I'm deaf, says it has nothing to do with the accident. So this, yes, is a funny story that it relates to our culture. And next, we have other examples as well, such as deaf sports. Let's make a comparison between hearing sports for hearing people and sports for deaf person. For sports with hearing people, normally you have a whistle, but for deaf sports, you have a flag instead of whistles because deaf people are visual people. This is a replacement or coping mechanism to help facilitate sports for deaf people. Celebrations and festivals, for example, the International Day of the Deaf. Deaf all around the world celebrates International of the Deaf at the final week of the month of September every year. Next, there are common misconceptions that happen. And this has been on for many, many years. For example, they think that deaf person is broken or silent, but deaf persons are equals. They can communicate, they can do a lot of things. They know how to sign. The only method of communication is sign language instead of the spoken language. A lot of people think that deaf persons cannot drive. But truth be told, let me share with you that in Malaysia, we have a lot of deaf Grab drivers. And they can drive really well because they can focus well on the road. They are visual people, so they use their eyes. Their eyes are more sensitive and can drive more carefully. Can all deaf persons lip read? No, they can't. Lip reading requires practice. It's a technique that requires practice. But often than not, there are miscommunication because of the similarities of the words and the mouth shape. So if you hope that I can lip read you, well, sorry, I can't. For the Malaysian Sign Language, is it universal? No, it is not. Do you know that in this world, there are more than 300 sign languages? Let me share with you. I know 3 sign languages: the Malaysian Sign Language, Singaporean Sign Language, and the Japanese Sign Language. And all these 3 are different. If you meet a deaf person overseas, if I meet a deaf person overseas, I'll be so keen to learn about their language. If you think that deaf persons want to be fixed, well, sorry to disappoint you, no. We are fine We can do so many things. The only thing that we can't do is hear. So we need accessibility to facilitate our daily lives. When there is good accessibility being provided for all of us, we stand on the level playing field. Deaf persons cannot read or write. Well, we can. We can read, we can write. There are many deaf graduates. Some with bachelors, some with masters, and some with PhD. If you think that deaf persons can read Braille, well, that's not true. Sorry, I myself don't know how to read Braille. Maybe you think that all deaf persons are like Helen Keller, the famous deaf-blind woman. She can sign, she can sign tactilely, and also she can read Braille. Unfortunately, we are not. We can sign and write, yes, but these are some of the misconceptions that we have. So it's important for us when we communicate. Our ultimate goal is to understand each other mutually. Moving on, we talk about misconceptions about the deaf culture. Many people misunderstood that all deaf cultures are the same. Deaf cultures depends on the countries they are in, and the cultures are influenced by the nationality. For example, for Indian people, they tend to shake their heads from left to right, and also their facial expression may be slightly different. For Japanese, they tend to bow. This is a sign for bow. And the same goes for other cultures. They are unique on their own. So in terms of traditions, norms, accessibilities, history, experience, these are part of identity, but each culture will have their own. Many societies will have different attitudes when they approach deaf people. For example, some hearing people will think that deaf persons are incapable, so they cast them aside and would not include them. So deaf people tend to be lonely and impacts their mental health. And sometimes they will withdraw from society. So it's important for us to change our perspective and our attitude to create a more inclusive environment by accepting them. If there is accessibility, everything is all on a level playing field. Everything will be equal. Some deaf persons would have different signing abilities. Some are more proficient than others. And this depends on their experiences when they travel around. And it is not universal throughout the entire community. How to get a deaf person's attention? These are a list of proper ways to do it. So deaf persons have acute vision, and also a good sense of vibration. They can feel vibration very well. So firstly, you can try to tap their shoulder gently. Don't tap or don't bang their shoulder or hit their shoulder really hard. What do you feel if somebody hit you really hard? You feel that it's rude, right? It's just not something that is normal. So it doesn't matter whether near or far. If you want to get their attention and you're in front of them, you can wave at them. Or if you're in a room, or if you're far away and there's lighting, well, you can play with the lighting. You can switch it on and switch it off, maybe 2 or 3 times. Don't cause the light to flicker. Or don't switch it off for a very long time. These are misconceptions when it comes to lighting. And on the floor, especially if it's made from wood, when you tap, we can feel the vibration. When your feet taps, we can feel the vibration. Even on a table, when you tap, cannot be far, it should be near. If the deaf person is near the table, you can tap, the person can feel the vibration. Or you can use visual signals such as your flashlight. And once you meet your eye gaze, then yes, you know that you've gained the person's attention. Now I will explain to you what not to do to get a person's attention. Please refrain from using these techniques. First and foremost, don't throw anything at us. It's really rude. Imagine if you're in my shoes and I were to throw something at you, you'll feel uncomfortable, right? And you feel strange. Same goes to us. That's what we feel too. And it's really dangerous. What if the thing hits me in the eye? Dangerous. So it's better to approach the person closer, right? Tap the shoulder, and please do not throw things at us. Don't shout at us as well. Sad to say, it's not going to work because we are deaf. We won't be able to hear despite how loud you shout at us. And won't it embarrass you? Because people will be looking at you. Why are you shouting? And if you want to get our attention, don't touch us all over the body. You end up having the deaf person making a police report against you because you're just too handsy. While a deaf person is signing, please don't hold the hands. Please don't drag the hand away. It's akin to interrupting our conversation because we are using our hands to chat. You can tap us on the shoulder and say, excuse me, I would like to get your attention, so and so matter. And don't blow at us. What's the point of it? Isn't it strange? And sometimes when there is a long queue and the person goes up, the deaf person is communicating by writing, and another person goes right to the front just to interrupt and goes all the way back to the end of the queue. Well, that's something rude and should not be done. So there are right ways and wrong ways to get our attention. If you're not sure, you can ask any deaf person. You can seek more information of what is the right way to approach us.
And why deaf culture matters? Why is it important to us? Deaf culture is necessary as it promotes our inclusion and dignity in society. It also supports us in our mental health and identity, and not just to push us away or for us to be in isolation. Yeah, and not to just leaving us behind, but be a part of the Malaysian deaf community or even the Malaysian community. It helps to understand and have a deep respect for the deaf in terms of policy making, services like interpreting and so forth. Okay, as in all members of the society, we have our own human rights as well. We want to preserve our Malaysian Sign Language or Bahasa Isyarat Malaysia, and not for others to decide on our language use. Remember earlier I was saying that without the language, how do deaf people communicate and how do we live and have an independent life? So this is something that we want to preserve, and it provides, sign language provides us to share our thoughts, our emotions. It also counters autism and misunderstanding, labeling on the negative thing about us. So this should be dropped. Even it will, even in terms of discrimination, how do we counter it? How do we have respect and encourage the good use of meaningful communication through the various methods, and strengthens our intergenerational knowledge between one another. And how can we all support one another, or how you can support us? The important thing is be an ally, a deaf ally. And here are the various ways. Of course, one of which is to learn Bahasa Isyarat Malaysia, respect the way deaf people are, our lifestyle, and not to dictate or to determine what, how and what can we communicate with. Yeah, each of our lives are different between the deaf and the hearing person. There should be mutual respect among one another and to be of equal standing. And let's live in together in this harmonious community or even society. If you're not, there are also many ways to communicate. You can text to us, you can write to us, or hire a sign language interpreter. And do join us in the various deaf-led activities so that you could interact with deaf people. There are many activities, sports activities, the general deaf activities, recreational. And every day there is something to learn about deaf people, or deaf people could participate in many activities. Some key takeaways: the deaf culture is really rich. It showcases our identity. And having this awareness and being respectful to one another, and that and that everyone can learn BIM to be able to socialize and communicate with us. I hope all of you would be able to join in the deaf-led activities. This will help you to improve your sign, know about us, for you to eat, have the recreational activities with us, play, and understand about deaf people and their lives and their culture. Just being in a class of studying BIM is not enough. These are all life experiences which you could actually meet up with us, understand about us. And annually, we have the International Deaf Day, and it's being celebrated in the last Sunday of September every year. I would like to introduce you to Mr. Timothy Ngu, who will explain to you about our first Malaysian Deaf Summit. Timothy? Hello, everyone. I'm Timothy, and that's my sign name. I'm born in Cebu, Sarawak. I'd like to explain to you about the program which will be held in September. It's the first Malaysian Deaf Summit, and it will be from the 26th to 28th of September. There will be talks on the education, disability, and it's very meaningful as you get to know more deaf people, what are some of the issues that we need to tackle on, some benefits. In addition to that, we will be celebrating our International Deaf Day celebration. And this is something that we all look forward to. And we have this good news. During this conference, it's for your participation, it's HRD Corp claimable, and you can also check out in our website on the various information. You can also use the QR code, and there we have a lot of information on the fees, the venue, the program, etc. It's all at Dawn website. Thank you. Thank you, Timothy. I hope you will take this opportunity to join us in the Malaysian Deaf Summit. It is, in particular, a huge event. Stay connected to us. We will continue to be organizing a series of webinars on education, on accessibility, on mental health, and everything. Yeah, but however, if you have any topics that you would like to know more, do write to us, or do let us know, so that our team could let us and our team knows about it. We welcome your ideas. I think there's a question about the interaction with the community. Yeah, so usually it's within the deaf organization or through a deaf program. Yeah, and sometimes after an event, the deaf people will go out for a drink at the mama store or a place where they could continue socializing and lepak, so-called, or chit-chatting. Do you have any other questions? Please raise your hand so you can speak. We have the sign language interpreters here to interpret for us. None? All right. Since there are no questions, let me continue. Nicole, you have a question? Do you want to type, speak, or sign? Okay, the question is, when we are signing, do we mouth the words? Um, it is a fact that many deaf people do not know the mouthing of each word or the meaning of each words. So when we sign, we keep our mouth shut. But again, it depends on each individual. Some deaf people prefer to close their lips when they sign. Any other questions? None? Okay, for those of you who require the certificate of attendance. Oh, hi, Nicole again. Okay, please, those who require the certificate, please scan the QR code and it will close at 11:55 p.m. tonight. You can either WhatsApp, email, or even scan the QR code to put in your particulars. I think there's somebody here who wants to ask a question. Are you typing or are you speaking? Okay, you're curious. Curious about what? Yeah, sure. There are some people or some deaf people who would have mouthed the words. Maybe because when they were young, they've already had got speech training or methods where they are trained to speak at home. But it is not all deaf people. Okay, for example, it's again the facial expression with the sign combined, it says a certain word. And of course, with your facial expression, body expression, so we usually use half of our body to convey the messages or the words. So if you know about BIM linguistics, that will provide you with the additional information. We also conduct BIM linguistic courses. Any other questions? Okay, there was this other questions. Able to learn another, does virtual helps them to learn another language? Well, it depends on the deaf person. They can learn it because as anything that provides accessibility, yeah. However, if you you can also hire a sign language interpreter or using the screen to read the text. Any other question? Is anybody speaking there? Yeah, language learning requires a commitment. All right, thank you. There's no other question? And how each and every one of us can preserve our Malaysian Sign Language and supports the work of the MyBIM. And together with your support, we could continuously help to expand our identity and culture, and your advocacy and support help us to prevent, protect, document, and share it with the world. It's like a sign bank that we put it in and that could be shared. In MyBIM, we also have a few deaf poem which is on YouTube. So if you're keen, you can watch it and also understand a little bit more about the deaf experiences. Your understanding, your support, and as an ally to us, help us to grow and develop and expand. Okay, here is a question: is deaf person easily available? Okay, is deaf person easily accessible to a mental health setting? Yeah, this is a struggle among the deaf people as there are no sign language interpreters. Yeah, there are, some deaf people cannot afford to have a hearing interpreter goes with them to the hospital or to any other places. And sometimes with medical personnel, we have a challenge when the nurses or the doctors would write pages and pages. Yeah, but some are not willing to write as they prefer to speak. But because I am deaf, I can't hear them talk. That means there's no respect for me. So I'm losing out on the information. And most of the family members are not proficient in sign language. Thus, we are devoid or unable to get a clear information. However, in Malaysia, we have yet to experience a full accessibility on communication. There is a question: can deaf people? Yes, there are in schools. From standard 1 to form 5, and then they take the same exam like the SPM, or even to college, to polytechnic, to universities. So a number of deaf people have completed their bachelor degrees, their master's degree, and we also have a deaf person who have completed his PhD. So there are many outstanding deaf people who have got higher education. I think there's another question. that is sign language in English or in Bahasa. Okay, Bahasa Isyarat Malaysia is a language by itself with the same standing as Bahasa Malaysia or Bahasa Inggris. So, being that it's not that we are signing in either English or Bahasa. So, BIM has got its own structured grammar and it's similar to English and Bahasa, and thus we say it's of similar standing. It's not representing Bahasa Malaysia or even representing English language. In US and in UK, in Australia as well. Yeah, they are basically an English-based country, but their sign language, again, it's a language by itself. It's neither the English spoken in Australia or even in UK and in US. In America or US, the sign language there is called the American Sign Language. And they also use hands, their hands to communicate, one hand. In UK, it's the British Sign Language. And BSL uses two hands for A, B, C, like you see just now, the examples that I give you. So although English is spoken, however, it does not influence the sign language of that particular country. And sign language are not universal. Are there any other questions? None? There are many institutions or organizations that teaches BIM. In Malaysia itself, most of them are being taught by deaf related organizations, and they are called the BIM courses, and it's always taught by a deaf person. You will need to check the websites of some of these deaf organizations or deaf related organizations for their sign language courses. We have an organization called the MyBIM, which comprise of deaf persons or instructors of sign language. One of the criteria to teach sign language is you do need to become a deaf person, and then there is a curriculum that one has to take, which is BIM grammar and structure as well. And if you all are interested, the courses teach you all to be familiar with VGC, which is the visual gesture communication. And most, if you must know, deaf people uses their hands, their facial expression, and body language to express the words or the sentences. Okay, there is a question on the category of deaf people and whether they get funding from NGOs or the government on cochlear implant, on hearing aids, like in Australia. Okay, in Malaysia, we have got the Department of Social Welfare, or in Bahasa we call it Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat. And it also has in the other states as well. However, deaf people is just one category of a group, the group called OKU, which has also got the blind, the physical handicap, the deaf, and so forth. So a number of or many people would, many OKUs would register themselves with JKM. And if there is a need, you can apply for the government's funding or support in some of these areas. Okay, somebody is asking about MSLI. You mean the, yeah, the sign language interpreters? Please be forewarned that, interpreters are just the bridge of communication between the deaf and the hearing community. They are not as instructors of sign language. Hearing. Okay, for the interpreters, this is called hearing. Yeah, and most of the sign language interpreters in Malaysia would know BIM. So if you want to hire them for a deaf-led event or any other programs, you can invite them. Any other questions? Do we understand about Kod Tangan Bahasa Malaysia, or KTBM, which is being taught in school? Honestly, I myself grew up learning KTBM, and it does not really help much of it. There are a lot of misunderstanding that occurs, and it does not make me an expert in sign language. It just follow the verbatim like a robot talking, word by word order. And I really don't understand much of it anyway. There were no explanation, no clarification, and it really doesn't help. This is not only to me, but also to my other deaf peers. In my honest opinion, if we use BIM, and if you train yourself, that would be a useful tool in learning. Okay, if you want to standardize in terms of teaching sign language, that is a good feedback, because it will develop and has a standardization on sign language. And it is useful when we also train the instructors in teaching BIM as well. And it would take some time for even our deaf people to know more about the BIM grammar and structure. Okay, the use of MSLI, we never use it because it is in Malta, in part of Europe. And that's where they have identified their sign language as MLSTI. But in Malaysia, we've always used BIM. Which we use BIM equally to talk to deaf person. The best way to improve your sign language is that you need to associate yourself, engage, okay, or what we say, tebalkan muka, and don't be shy. And always remember that you would think in pictures and not just on words alone. And once you know about the BIM linguistic features, then it make things easier for you when you learn sign language or BIM. Well, if you ask my opinion, where a hearing person should be able to teach sign language, I regretfully would say no. It is best that a deaf person teach sign language. Okay, let me repeat this. The sign language interpreter's role is to interpret or so-called translate from one target language to the other language and vice versa. So that is the code of ethics, that they are responsible to interpret but not to teach sign language to the hearing people. The natural language are from the deaf community, and so they are inadvertently the natural teachers or the native signers or the native teachers to teach sign language because of their status as a deaf person itself. Okay, I understand that you're asking, can you do what MYSL? Yeah, we did discuss about it, but decided that we would prefer to use BIM rather than the acronym MYSL. So as such, we hope that you all will continue using BIM because it's called Bahasa Isyarat Malaysia. So I understand that you think it's Malaysian Sign Language, or you want to put it as ML. So we prefer to use BIM. There was another question, does Malaysia have ASL course? No, we all don't use ASL. So as such, if you want to take up an ASL course, perhaps you need to migrate to America, US to study Malaysian Sign Language. American Sign Language. So here, the courses offered are Bahasa Isyarat Malaysia or Bahasa Isyarat Melayu. Any other? No other question? None? Okay, if you have any questions, suggestion, please type it out and you can email to us, email or phone, or sorry, not phone, but you can WhatsApp. Okay, you can email or WhatsApp to us. The WhatsApp number is shown here in this PowerPoint and the email address itself. Okay, and if your company plans to organize an awareness workshop or anything, you can also contact us. Okay, there's now no other questions. Let's proceed. There are two QR codes there of MyBIM, and if you want to know more about our programs, or if you want to donate to our organization and the work we do, you can use the QR code. There is a question. Yeah, truly, the advantage of a hearing person is you can learn many languages. Okay, but in Malaysia, we have yet to expose the deaf community with, but one way is through the use of BIM, because we are also human. We have our thoughts and feelings, and we know some of the challenges that we face. So we hope that you can accept our language and also learn to be learn so that you'll be able to communicate with us. For me and for the rest of the deaf community, Bahasa Isyarat Malaysia is very, very important to us. All right. If you would like to have the PowerPoint that was used for today's session, please scan the QR code so that the slides will be made available to you. Yeah, so do scan before we close the session tonight. There is a website there. Thank you, everyone. And I'm honored to be the speaker for today. I look forward to having all of you participate in our deaf-led activities or even program. And good night, everyone. I love you. Thank you.